The Entrepreneur's Library, episode 98.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Library, the only book-centric podcast that reviews all the top-selling business books and shares authors' perspective firsthand. This is your resource to finding the next great book that will enable you to grow personally and professionally. Welcome your host, Wade Danielson.
Welcome back to the EL. Today we have Mike Clayton, author of Powerhouse. Turbo boost your effectiveness and start making a serious impact. Welcome, Mike, and thank you for joining us on the Entrepreneur's Library.
Hello, Wade.
Will you take just a moment before we dive into the book to introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about you personally?
Sure. I'm a business author and speaker. My background is as a consultant with Deloitte Consulting back through the 90s and the early part of the century when I was delivering project and program management services for my clients. For the last 12 years or so, I've spent my time delivering seminars and training all around the UK and some of Europe as well. And over the last 6 years, I've developed a writing career, and Powerhouse is my 13th print book to be coming out.
Very good. Okay, so that's the one we want to jump into right away. So let's do that. So Powerhouse, which was just made available for purchase basically December 3rd, 2014. And Mike, we're going to move quickly, but we're going to cover the top questions that our listener/reader want to get answered. And the first question that they have is, what was the inspiration behind writing Powerhouse?
Well, some of the ideas have been buzzing around since a much earlier book called Smart to Wise. And these are the more practical aspects of wisdom that I wanted to get across, how to get things done. And the sources of these ideas come, I think, from three primary places. Firstly, my experience as a project manager and knowing how to get things done and how to make the right choices about what to do and when to do it. Secondly, fascination with personal psychology and what makes people effective, what drives and motivates people to make good choices and get the work done. And finally, I've got very interested over the last few years in what's called positive organizational scholarship, an understanding of how personal positive psychology applies within organizations in order to make them thrive and effective.
So, Mike, what do you say makes your book different from others regarding the same or similar topic?
Well, I suppose some people would put it into a category of books on productivity, and there are a lot of those around. And Powerhouse will give you my perspective on productivity, but it goes beyond productivity to effectiveness. Actually, not just doing lots, but making the right choices and carrying those choices through so that you get real valuable results. And even beyond personal effectiveness, I wanted to create a book which helps the reader to understand how to create kind of contagious attitudes that will motivate the people around them so they too can be more effective and more productive.
So, Mike, how did you design the book? Is this one that really a reader should start from the beginning and read all the way through? Or is this a book they can really jump in and jump out based on what they need at that moment?
I think it's both. I think for the first time, a reader is going to get a lot more from reading it from the start, because the link through to project management is a genuine one. And so in my mind, as I designed the book, certainly the first 9 of the 10 chapters follow to a degree the project management life cycle. So each chapter builds on the others. But if you don't have time for that, then each chapter will act in a freestanding way. Or if you've read or skimmed the book and then you want a deep dive at a particular situation, then it will work very well on a chapter by chapter basis.
Excellent. So, Mike, based on what you just said, as far as the deep dive, that's the next portion where I really want to just hand over the mic and allow you to take myself and the reader/listener through what your book is really all about. Will you take the next 5 to 8 minutes and do that for us?
Sure, very happy to do that. So the book's divided into 10 chapters, and the first 9 follow a sequence. Each of the chapters has a theme hooked around a personal attribute that is going to bring effectiveness and real power to your work. And I think of these themes as being like the sliders on a control panel or a mixing desk. And as the reader goes through the book, they're moving each slider higher and higher. And the first slider is about self-control. And the theme of this chapter is really about doing the right thing, choosing the right things to do. So this chapter carries a lot of the burden of the ideas of the book, because it sets out the idea of a compelling cause, and the idea that there are lots of things you could be doing. There are huge numbers of opportunities out there. What will make you successful is not scattering your efforts across many ideas, but making a real choice and defining for yourself a small number of compelling causes that will deliver real benefit to you. And I also, in that chapter, introduced the other most important theme of the book, the idea of the Powerhouse loop. And the Powerhouse loop is a cycle of identifying the opportunities, analysing what those opportunities are and what they can bring to the reader, and then, having done that, making your choice of compelling causes to pursue. We then make time to plan how we're going to deliver on those compelling causes, and then take action. But that in itself is only going to get you so far. I think real effectiveness is about gauging your process at each stage and, having taken action, getting a measure of the progress and identifying what's next, which may be a continuation around the loop again, following the same compelling cause, or it may be stepping into a new cause. And a strong argument in the first chapter is for limiting the number of compelling causes you are pursuing in any 3-month quarter period. And as an absolute maximum, I recommend 5. And that way you can give real depth of effort and thinking to those causes. So that's the first chapter. The second chapter then focuses on the idea of judgment, and it asks the question, why are you doing what you're choosing to do, and suggests that we need to do the right things for the right reasons. And I give the reader some understanding of what I consider to be a good quality decision, and the need for good proof, for a strong process, for taking the right perspective, and also for thinking about how you're going to mitigate any threats that are coming towards you. And I also suggest that a good decision is not enough unless you're able to carry people with you, particularly for the readers that don't run entirely their own business. They're entrepreneurial within an embedded business, or they are answerable to funders or even to investors. They have to convince people that their decision is the right one. So I introduce ideas about how to persuade into that chapter. Chapter 3 then suggests that you have to do the right things right. You have to get the process right. And this is the chapter that really does focus on productivity. And as I said in my answer to your earlier question, this book goes beyond productivity, but that's the topic for the third chapter. I divide it into 4 stages: planning, which comes way before you do something; preparation, which is in the run-up to it; and then performing the task. Then I introduced the idea of post-paration. We prepare in advance, we post-pare after we've done something. And a lot of work gets wasted when we do the bulk of the work and then we walk away and get caught up in something else. And I particularly think about the way that people go to meetings and then their next meeting is 2 minutes away from the previous one, and they haven't got time to think. Chapter 4 focuses on relationships. To be successful in the world of work and creating a new business, you have to work with the people around you. And so I talk about strategic networking and tactical networking in that chapter, and give the reader ideas about how they can plan and manage a campaign of engaging stakeholders and building support for whatever it is that they're seeking to do. When we move to chapter 5, that's also around people, but now we're starting to take a leadership role, and the chapter is about how to get the best from the people around you. And in that chapter, I talk about how to motivate your team, how to actively manage your team, and introduce some of the ideas from positive organisational psychology around evaluating excellence and celebrating success. And there's what I think of as quite a pivotal diagram in there, which shows the difference between moving from underperformance to standard performance, which I give 1 star, and then from moving standard performance up to 5-star powerhouse performance. And I start to introduce some of the ideas about winning over other people. Perhaps my personal favourite chapter is chapter 6. The idea behind that is conduct and the need to get the best from yourself. And what I like best about that chapter is it opens with an analysis of the different ways that we think, and that linked to the way our brains work. Although I have introduced very simple terms for the way our brains work, primarily click, bubble, and hum modes of thinking, where click is the very fast, instant, got it kind of intuitive mode. Bubble is the deliberate, thoughtful mode. And hum is the mode of thinking that goes on in the background that we're not actually aware of, that maintains our body, maintains our health and our alertness, and sometimes reacts instinctively to threats and to danger. And I also introduce the reader to 2 other modes of thinking which they can use to round out their performance. And the final step in that chapter is to articulate what I think are 10 important powerhouse attitudes. Chapter 7, which your listeners can read online as a free e-extract if they want to sample the book, is about perception and the need to be prepared for the unexpected. And I talk in that primarily about 2 things. One is reading the future and how to be alert for what's coming down the line. And secondly, I talk about how to read people and suggest there are 5 critical questions we can ask if we want to understand the people around us and anticipate their actions. Chapter 8 recognises something that I found very important when I was managing projects and starting new businesses. In fact, as a consultant, we started businesses for our clients, and that's the need to be resilient, to handle the unexpected, and also to cope personally with the challenges that the unexpected throws at us, and also the constant hard work and the stress that throws at us. So this chapter gives a range of different tools, such as different modes of working when things go wrong, tools like the scope process for dealing with the unexpected, and also understanding how we respond to stress and how we can overcome a feeling of being overwhelmed. And then chapter 9 rounds off the sequence. It's about growth, knowing when and where to stop, and how to harvest the lessons that you may have learned from delivering on your compelling causes. The final chapter, chapter 10, was a matter of a little bit of discussion with my publishers, because they felt in a way it was giving away too much. But I see it as a bit of a bonus chapter because it sets out 7 principles for taking your personal effectiveness ideas from Powerhouse and extending them to an organisational level. So I articulate 7 principles that an organisation can apply to start to create systemic powerhouse performance in its people. And that's the book. It's around about 180 pages. I believe it's very easy to read, but like all of my books, I think it's absolutely chock full of practical ideas and tools and techniques for your listeners and readers.
So, Mike, I like this next question because it really breaks down the book into an easy, digestible, paragraph, and that's if the reader can only take away one concept, principle, or action item out of your entire book, everything that you just discussed with us, what would you want that to be?
That's a tricky one because I think there are 2 core ideas in there. The idea of the compelling cause, that to be a powerhouse, you have to know exactly what you're focusing on and why. And then the idea of a powerhouse loop. The idea that if you follow that compelling cause blindly and you get tunnel vision, then you run the risk of missing an even better opportunity. So the need constantly to be adjusting. So I guess if you force me to boil it down to one, it's the powerhouse loop. Identify and analyze what's going on to find your compelling causes, plan how you're going to do it, take action, but constantly be on the lookout for new opportunities or shifts in the environment that mean you have to make changes to your plans. Because if all you do is follow a plan that you made today, then a week, 2 weeks down the line, that plan will be out of date and you will not be an effective powerhouse. You'll just be tunnel vision and going in potentially the wrong direction.
And do you have a favorite quote from your book, either one that you personally wrote or one that maybe has resonated with the audience, those that got a chance to pre-read it?
Yeah, the book is actually, what I did was pull quotes out of the book. Most of the quotes that are pulled from the book and put by the publishers in heavy type are quotes from the text. And again, reading through the book, I think that the one that really says it all for what it takes to be a powerhouse is: the world is full of opportunities. Start by focusing on the right ones.
So, Mike, this last question is an opportunity. I'm hoping that we can help this book lover find, besides yours, their next great book as well. And so, if there's only one book you could recommend, based on the way that it's created a paradigm shift for you and impacted your life, what would you want that, or what would you suggest to the listener?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if others of your authors have suggested the same book, but I think there is one standout book for the serious business person, entrepreneur, professional. One standout book this century so far. The ideas in that have created, I think, not just a paradigm shift for me, but for the whole world. And that's a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Daniel Kahneman is the only psychologist to win a Nobel Prize. He and his co-worker Amos Tversky, who sadly died before the Nobel Committee could recognise them, were the first people to truly realise that the fundamental underpinnings of all economic theories were wrong. The idea that humans behaved in a rational way. And so, despite the fact there is no Nobel Prize for psychology, they were recognised or Kahneman in particular was recognised with a Nobel Prize for economics, and they transform the way we understand how human beings think and react to situations. And Thinking Fast and Slow is an enormously compellingly written digest of a whole career of fundamentally discovering and building a whole body of knowledge. I think Daniel Kahneman is preeminent, one of the finest scientists working today, and this is his review of his life's work. And despite being deep in the depths of this knowledge, it comes across as an easy read for someone who is committed to understanding this stuff. It is not jargon-laden, it is not technical, but it is thorough and it is absolutely robust. And the ideas that it presents about the errors that we make in thinking will inform not just your understanding of marketing and sales, but also decision making, and it will revolutionize the thinking of anyone who has not come across the ideas in just the way they interact with the people around them. Thinking fast and slow.
That was a great recommendation, and a great, not that you were trying to sell it, but I think you did a great job of letting us know why. Some authors just share a book, but you really shared the why you thought it was kind of that paradigm shifting book. So I appreciate that. And Mike, before we depart, can you recommend the best way for our listener to not only get more information on you, but also your book, Powerhouse?
Yep. beapowerhouse.co.uk will take the listener to the Powerhouse page of my website. My wider website is mikeclayton.co.uk. They can find out about my books and my seminars on there. And I'm always very happy to engage with readers through social media. LinkedIn is my preferred business social media. And they're welcome to contact me directly, mike at mikeclayton.co.uk.
Excellent. Well, Mike, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your book with us.
It's been a great pleasure, Wade. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thanks again for listening in today. If you'd like more information on Mike Clayton or his book, Powerhouse, check out the show notes at the elpodcast.com.
Looking for your next book idea? Head over to the elpodcast.com, where Wade shares his amazing resource, the top 10 business books recommended by over 500 entrepreneurs, with you for free. That's the elpodcast.com. Till the next time, keep it on the EL.